think being a saloon girl was glamorous? Maybe you've imagined the flutter of lace, the clink of whiskey glasses, and a wink that could stop a bar fight in its tracks. Dancing on piano tops, charming cowboys, and getting paid just to be pretty. Not quite. It was sweat, spit, and survival, with a corset so tight you couldn't breathe, and drunk men trying to buy you like a pack of playing cards. The perfume barely masked the smell of blood and beer, and the only thing more dangerous than saying no was saying yes. Here's the twist. You weren't a performer, you were bait. A walking advertisement for a saloon that saw you as replaceable as broken glass. The saloon girl wasn't a flirty accessory to the Wild West. She was its frontline infantry. And most nights she didn't sleep, because she couldn't afford to close her eyes. How do I know? Because everything you're about to live, from the bloodied floorboards to the toothless suitors, is drawn from real accounts of 19th century Western saloons. This isn't a fantasy. It's the muddy, smoky truth with all the glamour burned off. And now, you are the new girl in town. You arrive in Red Gap, Wyoming, with a suitcase full of threadbare dresses and a borrowed name. You told the wagon driver your name was Clarabelle. It's not. But names are currency here, and yours doesn't carry any weight. Not yet. The air is hot and smells like dried sweat, horse piss, and sour mash. There's dust in your mouth before your boots hit the boardwalk. You're wearing hand-me-downs and a wide smile that's already starting to ache. You don't know a soul, but you know where you're going. The Singing Coyote Saloon. It's not much. Peeling red paint, broken piano keys, windows smeared with the breath of gamblers and drunks. But the sign outside says, "Hiring girls," and that's all you need to know. You push the door open. It groans like it's warning you. Inside, it's part music, part menace. A man in a bowler hat plays piano with one hand and drinks with the other. Cigarette smoke hangs low, clinging to the gaslights. Someone's passed out near the spittoon. Another man is shouting about a lost tooth and a cheating hand. Every eye turns to you. You smile like you mean it. Miss Beatrice runs the place, hair piled high, lipstick like war paint, and a stare that peels skin. She looks you up and down. "You dance?" she asks. "Not well," you say. She laughs once, no humour. "Good. They don't pay for the dancing." You're hired on the spot. No contract. No rules. Except one. Keep 'em drinking. Your job is to flutter, flatter, and never let a man nurse his drink in silence. If you can pour whiskey and stroke egos, you might make it through the week. Your first night, they stick you in a corset that bruises your ribs and shoes that weren't made for walking, let alone dancing. You're served whiskey you don't get to drink and expected to entertain men who forget your name before their glass is empty. There are 5 other girls. Ruby has a knife hidden in her boot. Lottie has 3 teeth missing and the sharpest wit west of St. Louis. They size you up like they've buried prettier girls out back. You survive your shift. Barely. You dodge a punch, spill a drink, fake a laugh, and earn 30 cents in tips, half of it in poker chips you'll never cash in. You walk upstairs to the sleeping quarters, 12 women to one room, with straw mattresses and a single cracked mirror. You lie there, heart racing, ribs sore, pretending to sleep. Outside, the piano starts up again. You won't survive here by being sweet. You'll survive by being steel in silk. You don't wake up to sunlight. You wake up to someone coughing blood into a bucket 2 bunks over. The air in the sleeping quarters is stale and damp, like someone bottled whiskey breath and regret. The girls shift around you, some snoring, one muttering in her sleep, and someone already getting dressed, pulling on a stained stocking with a groan. It's barely dawn, but you're already late. Downstairs, Beatrice is screaming at the cook about rats in the flour again. There's coffee on the stove, thick as mud and twice as bitter. You gulp it down anyway. It burns. You like that it burns. You spend the morning mopping floors sticky with last night's blood, beer and shame. Someone left a tooth on the piano. Another girl found a revolver tucked into a chamber pot. Ruby pockets it without a word. You sew a tear in your only decent dress, cut a new ribbon for your hair from a rag, and reapply rouge with a finger dipped in wine. That's the whole beauty routine. By the time the doors swing open again, the sun's baking the streets and the saloon smells like warm leather and sour bourbon. The gamblers are already arguing. One of the piano keys is jammed with jerky. You hum over it and pretend not to notice. Tonight a cattle drive's rolled into town, which means the place will be packed with cowhands full of pay and poor decisions. That's good for tips, bad for teeth. You hear Beatrice mutter to Lottie, "We'll be lucky if the wallpaper's still up by morning." You plant yourself near the bar, flashing a smile so wide it hurts. A cowboy asks if you're the dessert. Another asks if you're house-trained. You laugh. Not because it's funny, because if you don't, someone else might cry. You dance with a man who smells like a lard fire and tries to bite your ear mid-waltz. You pour drinks, steal sips when no one's looking, and push a drunk man off a chair before he pukes on your skirt. Ruby gets into a hair-pulling match with a rancher's wife. No one stops them. Half the saloon starts placing bets. You keep smiling. At midnight, a gun goes off. Nobody flinches. Just a broken bottle and a louder round of laughter. You pretend your legs aren't aching, your corset isn't slicing your ribs, and your toes haven't gone numb. You haven't peed since noon. No time, no breaks, no dignity. Beatrice hands you a coin. That's yours if you don't faint. You don't. But you do black out standing up for a second and only catch yourself because a piano leg stops your fall. Later upstairs, a miner with a crooked grin and a mouthful of gold teeth offers you $2 to spend the night. You tell him no. He slaps your backside and calls you a tease. Beatrice sees, says nothing. You want to scream. But all you do is light a candle and stare into the flame while your bunkmate brushes knots from your hair. "This life ain't for the soft," she whispers. You nod. You're trying not to be. Downstairs, the music never really ends. It just drifts, like smoke, like ghosts, until the next night begins, and you're still here, wearing the same smile, holding the same tray, and wondering how many more nights you can last. You're not even dressed yet, and your back already hurts. The corset is winning. It digs into your ribs like it's angry you exist. You tug the laces tighter anyway. Beatrice says loose laces are for widows and schoolmarms, and you're neither. Yet. Your shift starts at sundown, but the pressure starts long before. Lottie's already dabbing rouge on her bruised cheek, humming a hymn off-key. Ruby's sharpening a hairpin against the windowsill. You ask why. "Protection," she mutters. "You'll need something sharp that don't show." You reach for your own pin. Downstairs, the saloon is already buzzing. The singing coyote glows under gaslight and bad intentions. A piano clinks through a ragged tune that sounds more like a threat than a melody. The regulars are in their usual corners. 3 card sharks, 2 drunks, and 1 preacher who claims he's here for the chili. You step onto the floor like it's a battlefield. Straight spine, fake smile, heartbeat like hoofbeats. The bartender, Coop, hands you a tray without a word. Just nods at table 4. 4 men, already red in the face, already loud. One's missing an ear, another's wearing 2 belts but no pants. Welcome to your clientele. You walk over like you're not terrified. "Whiskey, boys?" you offer sweetly. "Hell yes, sweetheart," the one with the ear says. "And a little sugar from you too." You laugh. The trick is, make it sound real enough they don't test you. Fake enough that you remember its armour. You pour the drinks, smile just enough, and keep your tray between their hands and your hips. One of them tries to grab your wrist. You dodge it like you're dancing. Ruby winks at you from across the room. You're learning. The night stretches like taffy, sticky, sweet, and liable to snap. A travelling band sets up near the stairs. One of them is shirtless. You don't ask why. You're too busy dodging elbows, stepping over spittoons, and trying not to spill a tray of warm beer on a man with a sheriff's badge and a toothpick through his lip. You learn fast, never turn your back on a man holding cards. Never lean too close unless you want to be grabbed. Never, ever get cornered near the piano, that's where the fights break out. A cowboy vomits behind a curtain. A drunk collapses mid-proposal and knocks over a table. Someone fires a gun into the ceiling to celebrate a winning hand. You don't flinch anymore. Halfway through the night, Beatrice pulls you aside. Her lipstick's faded and her wig's crooked. "Come here," she says. She pulls you behind the bar and shoves a bottle of cheap perfume into your hand. "Don't use it on you," she says. "Use it on them. Makes them think you're clean." Then she looks you up and down. You ain't dead yet. That's a good sign. Later, you find yourself talking to a boy who looks too young to be in here. 17 maybe. Dusty boots, nervous hands, a face that hasn't hardened yet. He orders milk. Real milk. You stare at him. He shrugs. Don't like the taste of whiskey. You sit with him a moment, just to breathe, just to pretend the floor doesn't sway like a riverboat deck. He asks if you ever think about leaving. You say no. You don't tell him it's not about want. It's about where would you go. There's no job in town that doesn't come with bruises or branding irons. There's no out that doesn't cost more than you've got. He tips you a silver coin. You almost cry. By 2 a.m. the music is slow and slurred. Most of the men are either asleep on their stools or too drunk to move. Lottie hums something sad while wiping blood off a bar stool. Ruby's upstairs with someone. You don't ask. You sit on the steps, legs trembling, feet blistered, stomach growling. You haven't eaten since yesterday. There's still puke on your hem. And yet, weirdly, you made it. You earned nearly $2 tonight. More than you've ever held at once. You tuck it into your corset like it's sacred. Upstairs, 12 girls snore, sigh, and groan in their sleep. You crawl into your spot. Not quite a bed, not quite the floor. Your dress is still damp. Your hands stink of bourbon. You feel someone's foot against your side. You don't move it. As you close your eyes, you hear the first rooster crow in the distance. You didn't die. You didn't cry. And nobody carried you out by the ankles. That's a win. There's an art to it. Flirting, that is. Not the kind that wins hearts. The kind that keeps you alive. Because in the Wild West, a wink could make a man fall in love, start a fight, or drag you upstairs without asking. And you've got to balance on that razor's edge. Soft enough to keep 'em spending. Sharp enough they think twice before grabbing. Beatrice calls it emotional blackjack. Never go over. Never show your whole hand. The lesson starts at noon, whether you're ready or not. You're sweeping glass off the saloon floor when a cowboy stumbles in with a black eye and a bouquet of prairie weeds clutched in one hand. It's for you. You don't remember his name. He danced with you once, told you your eyes looked like church windows. Then he passed out in his soup. "Miss Clarabelle," he says now grinning, "I ain't stopped thinking about you." Your stomach sinks. You force a smile. Beatrice watches from the bar. She doesn't interfere, not unless there's blood. "Thank you kindly," you say, taking the weeds like they're roses. "Ain't no one ever picked me weeds before." He lights up like you proposed. You make a mental note. Flattery plus rural equals danger. After he leaves, Lottie corners you by the staircase. "You got to learn fast, girl," she mutters. "There's only 3 kinds of men in here. The married ones, the mean ones, and the ones too dumb to know which they are." She points to her chin, faint scar. "That one thought I was his long-lost wife." You ask what she did. She smiles. "Bit him." That night, the saloon is packed again. Dust storms rolled through earlier, so everyone's thirsty. Half the town has tracked in dirt, cow stink, and testosterone. Beatrice hands you a tray and one warning. Don't get friendly. Get profitable. You start at the poker tables. Table 1. A banker from Chicago, a cattleman, and someone called Six-Finger Pete, who only has 4 fingers. You compliment the banker's moustache, the cattleman's boots, and Pete's hat. All lies. All effective. You touch the edge of a sleeve. Lean close enough to be heard but not touched. Tilt your head like you care what they're saying. None of them know your name by the end, but they've each bought 2 rounds and tipped you twice. That's flirting. Table 2 is harder. You recognise one of them. The bouquet cowboy from earlier. His name is Reese. He's had 3 shots and is now asking Coop if he can rent out the whole bar for a wedding. You pretend not to see him. He doesn't pretend. "Clarabelle," he shouts, waving. "Sweet Clarabelle." The music pauses. Heads turn. You turn toward him like it's a performance. Smile. "Why, hello, Reese. Didn't expect you out of the hospital so soon." Laughter breaks out. He doesn't understand the joke, but he's embarrassed enough to stop yelling. Ruby winks at you across the room. You're learning. Later in the corner booth, a man in a black duster watches you. Doesn't drink, doesn't smile, just watches. You keep glancing back. Every saloon has one. The quiet ones are the ones you worry about, not the shouty drunks, the statues. When you finally walk past, he says, without looking up, "How much to smile like that? For real?" You pause, not because you want to, but because that's not the kind of question men usually ask. You lean just slightly closer. "For you?" you say. "That's the deluxe package. Comes with a sandwich and a safety guarantee." He doesn't laugh, just nods. You walk away quickly. Upstairs, hours later, you count your tips under a crooked lamp. $1.41 and a folded note that says you smell like heaven. You wrinkle your nose. Heaven apparently smells like stale perfume and meat sweat. Lottie slides onto the mattress beside you. "You didn't get slapped tonight, that's progress." You nod. She pulls a flask from under her pillow and passes it to you. You sip. It's awful. You sip again anyway. Outside, the town sleeps like it's holding its breath. You lie awake thinking about smiles. How yours isn't yours anymore. How it's become part of the uniform, like the corset and the painted lips and the fake name. You wonder what your real smile used to look like. You wonder if you'll ever get it back. Then Ruby snores like a dying bear. Someone farts, Lottie whispers a prayer, and just like that, you fall asleep. You never learned his name. Most of the saloon didn't. Everyone just called him Fingers. He'd been there longer than any of the girls, longer than Coop, maybe even longer than Beatrice. He played piano with cigarette burns on his knuckles and a cough that rattled worse than the saloon windows during dust storms. He only had 3 moods, drunk, playing, or both, and tonight he's both. The evening starts normal, or what passes for normal here. The bar's packed, the air's humid with whiskey vapour, and a man named Toadskin is arm wrestling a preacher for a bottle of gin. The music cuts through the chaos like a saw blade through meat. You're working the corner tables, smiling so much your cheeks hurt. A ranch hand tries to feed you jerky from his pocket. Someone else offers to pay you with a chicken. You keep your tray between your body and their hands and pray no one throws a chair before midnight. Fingers plays like always. Slumped, sweat dripping from his brow, mouth holding a cigarette that burns right down to the paper. You've started to memorise his set list. There's the upbeat Let's Get Drunk tune, the mellow I Lost My Horse ballad, and the ever-popular Someone's About to Get Stabbed waltz. He never speaks, just plays. But every girl here owes him something, a moment where he hit the right note just as you're about to break. Around 10, everything shifts. It's the man in the green duster. He's new. You can always tell. The new ones are too clean, too confident. He walks with that cocky, murder you over a card game swagger, sits at the table closest to the piano, and starts ordering double rounds for everyone, except Fingers. "Don't waste it on that fossil," he says loudly. You're nearby. You smile politely, try to redirect the conversation. "Can I get you something to eat, mister?" He grins like a man who's never earned anything. "I'll eat when the music don't suck." You clench your jaw. You don't say anything. But Fingers hears it and keeps playing. Slower now. Lower. A storm is brewing. The man starts heckling loudly. Says Fingers should stick to funerals and maybe he's deaf. People chuckle. Fingers doesn't stop. You know he won't. Then the man stands up, draws his revolver, laughs. Let's see if he can play without hands. You freeze. The saloon freezes. Even Coop drops a glass. But before anyone can move, before you can shout or Ruby can draw her knife, the man fires. One shot, right into the side of the piano. Fingers flinches, then slowly lifts his cigarette out of his mouth and says, in the driest voice you've ever heard, "Missed." The room explodes. Coop tackles the shooter. Ruby jumps the bar. Beatrice pulls a shotgun from under the counter and cocks it with the kind of casual precision that suggests she's done it before. The shooter tries to run. Bad idea. You don't see what happens behind the curtain, but there's a lot of yelling. One loud thud and silence. When they drag him out, his nose is broken and his ego's been stomped flat. Beatrice tosses him out the door like a sack of rotten potatoes. Later the saloon is quiet. Nobody talks. The music stopped. Fingers is just sitting there, staring at the bullet hole like it insulted his mother. You bring him a drink. He doesn't thank you, just takes it and downs it in one long pull. Then slowly he lifts his hands, burnt, scarred, ancient, and starts to play again. It's not the get drunk tune, not the waltz. It's something soft, something cracked. You lean against the wall, breath slowing. The girls sit nearby, quiet for once. Even Ruby puts her blade away. Fingers plays like the piano is telling secrets, like it's mourning its own broken wood. You don't speak, you just listen. When the last note falls, he closes the lid and walks away. No drama, no applause. The stool sits empty. That night you dream of music and gunpowder, of calloused fingers on ivory keys, of all the men who don't aim right and the few who do. You wake up to silence. The piano is still there, but Fingers is gone. No one talks about it. No one knows where he went. The stool stays empty for days. The girls take turns playing one-finger ditties to keep the room from going cold. You don't cry, but sometimes, when the wind whistles through the floorboards, it sounds like the last note he played. If downstairs is chaos, upstairs is the aftermath. You think it might be quieter, softer, safer somehow. It's not. It's just less visible. The upstairs of the singing coyote isn't where the fun happens. It's where the masks come off, the corsets come loose, and the stories nobody tells start to pile up like dirty laundry in the corner. 12 girls, one room, no secrets. The first thing you notice is the smell. It's part rosewater, part unwashed stockings, part something you try not to think too hard about. There's no real ventilation, just one cracked window that opens if you kick it hard enough. The wallpaper peels in long curls, the floorboards creak like they're tattling on you. Privacy? You gave that up when you signed on with Beatrice. You sleep on a thin straw mattress with a pillow that crunches when you move. Someone wrote "Get out while you can" on the underside of the bed frame. The T is smudged. You trace it sometimes when you can't sleep. There are no assigned beds. It's first come, first lay down. Ruby always picks the corner near the door. "So I can see who's coming," she says. Lottie likes the bunk under the broken lamp because it gives her just enough light to read the same torn-up Bible pages every night. You take the middle? No reason, just the only space that doesn't creak too loud when you cry. Then there's Mary Ellen, a girl so young she still apologises when she swears. She says she used to be a farmer's daughter. Now she's the saloon's unofficial optimist, humming tunes and folding everyone's stockings like it means something. She's got a stuffed rabbit with one eye that she hides in her corset during work hours. Beatrice pretends not to see it. Tall Sally snores like a church organ and collects hat pins like she's expecting war. She once threw one at a customer from the second floor and hit him right in the earlobe. Beatrice fined her $2, but also gave her the best bunk for a week. Respect is earned in odd ways here. And Nora. Nora used to be a school teacher. You can tell. She still speaks like someone who knows how to hold a room. She writes letters every night but never sends them. You saw one once, addressed to a Miss Clara in Boston. No return address. The nights upstairs are sacred in a strange feral way. No customers, no piano. Just tired women peeling off stockings, unpinning curls and wiping away the faces they wore all day. Someone always boils water in a tin cup for tea, even if there's no tea. Just the motion, the ritual, the illusion of comfort. You trade stories, some funny, some awful. Tall Sally once found a finger in a boot. Lottie got mistaken for a dead woman's ghost by a drunk who swore he buried her in Kansas. Mary Ellen swears a prospector gave her a gold nugget once. She shows it to you in the dark. It's just a rock, but you nod anyway. There's no lock on the upstairs door, just a chair you wedge under the handle at night. Beatrice says locks are bad for business. The chair is bad for sleeping, but it makes you feel like maybe, you won't wake up to a stranger breathing in your ear. You learn to sleep light. You learn what each creak means. The third step up the stairs groans like a drunk. The fourth skips. If you hear both, someone's coming. If you hear neither, run. Sometimes someone breaks the rules. A man makes it up. Sometimes by invitation, sometimes not. That's when the chair doesn't matter. That's when the saloon turns from gritty to terrifying. You don't forget those nights. You remember holding your breath, clutching your blade, watching the curtain sway and pretending you're somewhere else. Lottie once hit a man so hard with a boot heel that Beatrice paid her a bonus. The man didn't come back. Rumour is he never got the boot removed from his face, but it's not always dark. Sometimes there's laughter so loud you forget where you are. Someone finds an old songbook and sings off-key. Someone else mends your dress without asking. Nora recites poems about stars you can't see from the city. You share cookies someone stole from the general store. And on the best nights, you all fall asleep at the same time. A dozen broken women snoring like babies under quilts that smell like sweat and soap. It's not peace, but it's close enough. You wake up before the sun, always, your throat dry, feet already aching, dream forgotten the moment you open your eyes. Ruby's brushing her teeth with whiskey. Mary Ellen's tucking her rabbit into her corset. Beatrice bangs a ladle against the railing and yells, "Up, girls! No beauty sleep ever fixed a busted lip!" And just like that, you're up. You lace the corset, you paint the lips. You become Clarabelle again, the woman who smiles, or the woman who serves, and the woman who survives. You always thought the sheriff was supposed to be the safe one. He's the badge, the authority, the guy who shows up after the shooting starts. Hollywood makes him the hero, the one who tips his hat, saves the girl, and rides off into the sunset. But that's Hollywood, and you're in Red Gap, Wyoming. Here the sheriff's just another man in the saloon, except his bullets are legal and his temper wears a tin star. You've seen Sheriff Cutter before. Tall, silver moustache, hat always tilted just enough to say, "I'm watching you." He's not cruel exactly, just carved from the same rock as the rest of them. He drinks quietly, tips decently, and only pulls his gun when someone makes him repeat himself. Still, something about him always made your stomach tighten. Not fear exactly, not safety either, just awareness. Like he walks around with a storm in his coat pocket waiting for the right moment to let it out. Tonight he shows up around dusk, not unusual. He's got a seat near the piano as always. Orders a whiskey. Doesn't smile. Doesn't need to. What's different is the girl he brings with him. She's young, too young, can't be more than 16, with curls that haven't seen dust yet and a dress that doesn't belong in a saloon. She looks around wide-eyed, clinging to the sheriff's sleeve like he's a ticket to something better. Beatrice sees her and freezes. You see Ruby tense. The air goes sharp. You don't ask, you just serve. That's the rule. He calls her Miss Abigail, says she's his niece, but nobody believes that. Not even the girl. She doesn't speak, just nods when spoken to and stares at her lap like maybe she can disappear into it. You try to meet her eye once, and she looks away fast, too fast. Later, you're cleaning glasses when Lottie sidles up beside you, whispering under her breath, "She's not going to make it a week." You glance at the girl again. You know she's right, but what can you do? That night the saloon hums on like nothing's changed. Cards are dealt, fights break out, a drunk gets tossed into the street. You dance with a man who smells like axle grease and asks if you've ever shot a man for fun. You say, "Only on Tuesdays." He doesn't laugh. You walk away. Sheriff Cutter stays late, keeps his hand on the girl's back the whole time, never says much, just watches, like he's daring someone to comment. Ruby makes a point of ignoring him. Lottie won't walk past his table. You keep moving. Eyes down, heart pounding, pretending your stomach isn't tying itself into knots. At one point he calls you over. You bring him a drink. He nods, says, "You're doing good work, Miss Clarabelle." You smile and nod like it's a compliment. Then you walk straight to the back and throw up in a mop bucket. You think about leaving, not forever, just long enough to stop thinking about the girl, but you don't, because where would you go? And because you know what'll happen if you're not here to watch. That night when you go upstairs, she's there too. Miss Abigail, curled up on the far cot, eyes wide open, not crying, just staring at the ceiling like maybe it'll tell her what to do next. You lie in bed, listening. No one says anything. Even the girls who usually snore stay quiet. Ruby keeps a knife under her pillow that night. So do you. Morning comes slow. Beatrice pretends everything's normal, says nothing about the girl, hands out trays, yells about spilled gin, and warns everyone to smile bigger tonight because there's a poker tournament coming through. But there's tension in her voice, and you catch her watching the girl when she thinks no one's looking. Later, in the kitchen, she says to you in a whisper, "If anything happens, I'll take care of it." You don't know what that means. You're not sure you want to. That night Sheriff Cutter doesn't show. The girl does. She's working the floor now. Dressed like the rest of you. Too much paint, too little fabric. Looking like a kid in a costume she didn't choose. She doesn't talk, just nods and serves and tries to smile. A man touches her waist. She jumps so hard she drops a glass. No one laughs. Ruby walks over and says something too quiet to hear. The man backs off. You breathe again. After hours, the girl sits next to you on the staircase. She doesn't speak, just leans against your shoulder like maybe you're made of something sturdier than you feel. You let her. You stay like that for a long time, until the gas lights flicker low, until the town goes quiet, until the girl finally falls asleep against you. Body slack, breath slow, fingers curled like a baby's. You carry her upstairs, tuck her in, and sit at the end of her cot until morning. You don't know if she'll last a week. You don't know if you will either. But tonight, at least tonight, you made it through. And that's something. You know it's coming before it happens. You see it in his eyes, the way they flicker too long over your bodice, the way his smile doesn't quite reach his cheeks, the way he laughs when you say no like it's a joke you don't understand yet. It's a pattern like dust storms and broken pianos, a predictable kind of danger. You've danced around it before, but tonight it steps closer. His name is Mr. Hatch. At least, that's what he tells the table. You're not sure if it's real and you don't care. He smells like aftershave and gun oil. He has gold rings on every finger and a voice that tries to charm but lands like spoiled syrup. He's not drunk. That's the problem. The drunk ones fumble, the sober ones aim. You're working the mid-evening rush. 3 drinks deep, feet throbbing, head pounding from a mix of cigar smoke and too many forced giggles. Beatrice says to work the good tables, and Mr. Hatch is throwing money around like it's a stage show. So you go, you smile, you pour, you keep the tray between you and his wandering hands. He tips big. Too big. You don't like it. "You got a name, sweetheart?" he asks, though you told him twice already. "Clarabelle," you say. He leans in. "Nah, that's your work name. I mean your real name." You smile, polite. "Clarabelle's the only one you paid for." The men at the table laugh. He doesn't. He reaches out, slow, deliberate, and runs a finger along your arm. You flinch. Not enough for the table to notice, but enough for you to know. Later you're wiping down a spill when he corners you near the stairs. "You playing hard to get?" he asks. You say nothing. "I like that, it makes it more fun." He steps in close, too close. You feel the weight of the saloon shift, like something in the air just broke. You try to walk away. He grabs your wrist. Hard. Everything stops. Ruby sees first. She's behind the bar, halfway through pouring a drink. Her body stiffens. Then Lottie. She's in mid-laugh with a group of miners, but her face drains. Even Beatrice, as mid-smoke, mid-cuss, goes silent. You look him in the eye and say calmly, clearly, "Let go of me." He doesn't. Time snaps. You don't remember what moves first, the girls or the blade. Ruby's knife flashes silver across the room. Lottie's already halfway across the floor. Beatrice doesn't yell. She moves. Fast. Like a storm that's been waiting to touch down. Coop's reaching under the bar. You know what's there. Mr. Hatch doesn't let go until the shotgun clicks. Then he lets go fast. Beatrice doesn't raise her voice. She never has to. "This girl said no," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You didn't listen. That means you leave. Now." He tries to argue. Big mistake. Two men from the card table grab him by the collar. Apparently they have sisters, or mothers, or just a long overdue conscience. They throw him out the door into the mud. He lands with a thud that feels righteous. Beatrice slams the saloon door shut behind him and tells Coop, "Lock it. No more new faces tonight." You sit down behind the bar. Your hands are shaking. Ruby hands you a drink, just enough to steady your ribs. You're not crying. You're not even breathing. Beatrice leans over and lights a cigarette with one hand. "Next time," she says. "Uni first, talk later." You nod. You will. Later, upstairs, the room is quiet. Mary Ellen sits next to you, brushing your hair with slow, careful strokes. Lottie patches a tear in your dress without asking. Ruby sleeps with her blade unsheathed. No one talks about it. They don't have to. You feel something shift inside you, like a door quietly locking from the inside. You don't smile as much the next day. And that's okay. You don't have to. Because every girl in the Singing Coyote saw what happened, and for once the room stood behind you. For once the story ended before it could begin. And for now, that's enough. You didn't mean for it to happen. No one planned it. There wasn't a secret meeting or a whispered code passed between corsets and garters. Just one of those nights, hot, sticky and mean, when everything snapped at once, and the girls decided they'd had enough. It started with a chair. It's past midnight. The air in the Singing Coyote is thick with sweat and gun smoke. The piano's out of tune, Coop's run out of clean mugs, and Beatrice is nursing a black eye she got from trying to break up a fight between a miner and a mule breeder. You're exhausted. Everyone is. Even Ruby looks tired, and Ruby once wrestled a drunk bounty hunter unconscious with just her thighs and a hairpin. You're walking back from the corner table when some man you've never seen before. New boots, shiny hat, full of bourbon and himself, smacks your behind like it's part of the service. Lottie sees it. Ruby hears it. Beatrice misses it. She's upstairs tending to Mary Ellen's fever. So tonight, the girls handle it. Lottie sets down her tray, calm, deliberate. Walks straight over to the man and says, sweet as syrup, "Did your mama raise you that dumb, or did you wander into a wall too many times?" The man laughs. Wrong answer. Ruby doesn't wait. She grabs a bottle from the bar and smashes it over his hat. Glass and whiskey rain down like the 4th of July. The room goes dead silent. Then tall Sally flips a table. Just lifts the whole thing and tips it onto the next, scattering cards, drinks, and several confused cowboys. That's when it happens. The moment. The click. Something shifts in the air and suddenly the girls aren't playing along anymore. They're running the show. You don't remember who threw the first boot. Could have been Nora. But once it starts, it doesn't stop. Lottie shoves a man out the swinging doors with one hand and a bar stool with the other. Ruby climbs the piano and starts shouting rules like it's a new constitution. No touching without asking. No insults unless they rhyme. No peeing in the ficus. There is no ficus. Still, it gets a laugh. Coop doesn't intervene. He just shrugs and ducks behind the bar, figuring it's safer there. You feel something rise in your chest. Not fear. Adrenaline. And something sweeter. Relief. You've never had a night where you weren't just surviving. Now, you're performing. You kick a spittoon at a man's boots and yell, "That one's for your wife who definitely deserves better." Even the preacher cheers. The customers aren't mad. Strangely enough, they love it. Men start tossing coins at your feet, whooping like it's a show. Someone starts clapping in rhythm. The piano player, bless his soul, picks up the tempo and plays something halfway between a march and a jig. For once, you don't feel like prey. You feel like a queen. Beatrice comes downstairs halfway through the chaos. Her eye is swollen, her hair's a mess, and she's holding a soup ladle like a weapon. She stops on the stairs, watches Ruby spin kick a gambler off a bench, sees you dancing atop the bar, brandishing a mop like a musket. Then she smiles. Biggest smile you've ever seen on her, and turns right around to go back upstairs. No one tells her it's over. By 2 a.m, the saloon is different. Tables are sideways. Men are smiling with lipstick on their foreheads. One cowhand is slow dancing with tall Sally, while Lottie sings something haunting and weird from her childhood. You're breathless, covered in beer, missing one shoe, and lighter than you felt in months. This isn't order, it isn't rebellion. It's something better. It's yours. Afterward, the girls collapse in a heap upstairs. You all pile onto mattresses and each other like puppies, bruised, laughing, drunk on nothing but your own guts and glitter. Mary Ellen's fever broke. She sits in the corner eating a biscuit like it's a victory feast. Ruby pulls the covers over all of you and says, "Reckon we run the place now." No one disagrees. You fall asleep with your head on Nora's lap and someone's sock in your hand. You don't care whose. You dream of horses with corsets, of shot glasses full of roses, of a world where the girls with the busted heels and the iron spines make the rules. When you wake, the saloon will still be standing. The men will come back, the rules will try to come back too, but for one night, the girls took over, and nobody will forget it. It starts like every other night. You paint your lips in the cracked mirror. Ruby sharpens her knife on the windowsill. Mary Ellen hums something sad under her breath. You all stretch aching feet, tighten laces, and put on the faces you wear for the saloon crowd. Glitter and grins over exhaustion and bruises. And Sally, big, loud, indestructible Sally, she's the last to get ready. Always is. Always says, "Ain't no rush toward whiskey breath and spilt peanuts." She says that again tonight. Only tonight it's the last time you hear her voice. The shift starts the usual way. Cards, boots, bourbon, dust in your throat. Music from the piano that sounds a little drunker than the man playing it. Beatrice snaps orders like a military general. You, back left table. You, cut more lemons. Clarabelle, smile wider. You do. The saloon doesn't run on peace. It runs on rhythm. A shaky, broken rhythm, but a rhythm just the same. And you're used to the cracks. But this crack never seals. You don't even notice she's missing until after midnight. Someone asks where Sally is. You shrug. You assume she's on break. Lottie says she saw her step outside for air. Beatrice says she's probably upstairs, soaking her feet like she always does when her boots rub raw. But time passes, and she doesn't come back. You check the kitchen, nothing. You check the outhouse, empty. Ruby checks the alley, returns pale and silent. That's when the music stops, and that's when the fear starts. Beatrice takes charge. She orders everyone to lock the doors, turn down the lamps. She tells Coop to fetch the sheriff. Only the sheriff ain't in town tonight. Took a horse up north for some official business. Beatrice curses in 3 languages and pours herself 2 fingers of whiskey. Neat. Then she says, "All right." We find her ourselves. The girls fan out across Red Gap. Ruby checks the stables. Lottie searches the bathhouse. You head behind the saloon, the place no one wants to end up after dark. The moon is low and yellow, casting shadows like ghosts across the mud. You see a shape. Your breath catches. But it's just a coat hanging off a fence post. You keep looking. By dawn, you're back upstairs. No sign, no clue, just silence. You all sit in a circle on the floor, dresses wrinkled, faces raw. Beatrice doesn't yell. Mary Ellen cries without sound. Ruby carves a name into the windowsill with her knife. Sally. Nora whispers, "Sometimes women leave." You whisper back, "Sally didn't." You don't open the saloon the next night. No one says it aloud, but it's an unspoken pact. The singing coyote stays dark, for the first time in years. Beatrice puts a sign out front. Closed for maintenance. You all sit in the quiet. No corsets, no makeup. Just girls in slippers and smudged eyes, listening to the wind move through the cracks in the walls. You play cards badly. Lottie tells a story about Sally punching a preacher who slapped her behind after a wedding. Mary Ellen laughs too hard. Ruby doesn't laugh at all. You think of Sally's bed. Still made, still warm, still empty. A week passes, people ask questions. Beatrice tells them she went to Denver. It's a lie, but it's one people are willing to believe, because the truth, that a woman that strong could simply vanish without a sound, is heavier than most folks care to carry. You start looking for her everywhere, in faces that half resemble hers, in the sound of boots on floorboards, in dreams where she stands in the doorway smiling like she forgot something and came back to get it. But she never does. Some nights Ruby sets an extra place at the vanity. Some nights you see a flash of movement by the stairs and hope so hard it hurts, only to realise it's the shadow of your own expectation. The worst part, no goodbye, no note, just gone. Like she stepped through a door no one else can see. Weeks pass. Red Gap moves on, the saloon reopens, Beatrice hires a new girl named June with nice teeth and bad nerves. The customers come back grumbling about women getting too uppity and no fun like the old days. You smile and pour their drinks, but something's changed. You're not just surviving anymore, you're watching, counting, noticing when girls start looking too thin or laughing too little. You don't let them go unnoticed, not anymore, not after Sally. One night, months later, a traveller passes through. Says he saw a big woman in a mining town down south. Said she was working in a kitchen, cracking jokes, flipping biscuits as big as her fists. You all hope, just for a moment. Then the story ends, like most stories do, with a shrug, and a maybe, and a silence that settles back in your bones. You never know what happened to her. Not for sure. But every time you walk past her empty bunk, every time you hear a floorboard creak the way hers used to, every time you see the notch Ruby carved into the windowsill, you remember Sally was here. She mattered. She made space. And the world will never be quite as loud without her in it. You always thought you'd break loud, throw something, yell something, maybe storm out in a flurry of torn lace and hard words. You pictured it like the end of a melodrama, all high drama and righteous rage. But when it finally happens, it's quiet. You're just washing a glass. It's a Thursday, or maybe a Tuesday. You stopped counting those. The saloon smells like sweat and spilled beer. The piano's broken again. Mary Ellen's crying over a letter she never got. Ruby's pacing. Lottie's threatening to burn a customer's beard off with lamp oil. Beatrice is on her 3rd smoke and hasn't blinked in 20 minutes. And you? You're behind the bar, cleaning a glass that's already clean. Over and over. A man walks up, red-faced, slurring, reeking of onions and entitlement. You've seen him before. The kind who thinks tipping a nickel buys your soul. He leans in too close. Says something gross. Something worse than usual. and you don't even hear the words. You just hear your own heartbeat, loud, steady, patient, like it's been waiting. You set the glass down, look at him and say, very calmly, "No." He laughs, or of course he laughs, and you say it again, "No." And then you walk away, just like that. You go upstairs, sit on your cot, untie your boots, and cry. Not loud, not messy, just the kind of crying that doesn't stop. The kind that leaks out of your ribs like steam from a kettle. You don't want comfort. You don't want revenge. You want silence. A room with a door that locks. A future you don't have to apologise for. Ruby finds you first. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside you, pulls out a flask, hands it over. Then comes Lottie, then Nora, then Mary Ellen, Rabbit clutched tight in her arms. Beatrice comes last. Leans in the doorway, eyes you the way she does when she's trying not to look like she cares too much. Then says, "You're not quitting." You look at her deadpan. "You think I'm not?" She smirks. "I think you're not the quitting kind, but I also think maybe you're done being the carrying kind." You blink. She steps into the room. For years, you've held this place together with grins and grace and guts. It's okay to set it down. You're allowed. You don't say anything, because that might break the silence. You don't quit. Not that night. Not the next. But you change. You stop apologising when you're tired. You stop laughing when it isn't funny. You stop being the one to smooth it all over. You still wear the corset, still paint your face, still walk the floor, but now you do it for you, not for them. Weeks pass, then months. One day a letter arrives. It's from a woman named Clara in Boston. She says she's heard about the singing coyote, heard about the girls, says she's opening a boarding house for women of former disrepute, her words, and she's hiring. You don't think twice, you write back, and this time you sign your real name. The night before you leave, the girls throw a party. Beatrice pretends not to care, but she makes a cake with actual sugar. Ruby gives you a knife. Don't let 'em get close unless you mean it. Lottie gives you her favourite hat pin. Mary Ellen gives you the rabbit. You try to give it back. She says, "No, he needs a fresh start too." You hug them all, even Beatrice, even Coop. You cry again, but it's the good kind this time. When the stagecoach pulls out at dawn, you don't look back. Not because you're not sad, but because the future is ahead. And for once, it's yours. And that saloon, that dusty, dangerous, broken little box of a place, you loved it. You survived it. You outgrew it. And as the wheels rattle down the road and the town shrinks behind you, you realise something. You didn't break. You broke free. If you're still awake, well, maybe you didn't need this story after all, but if you're still here, still listening, maybe you see a bit of yourself in her, in the tired eyes, the quiet strength, the need to belong, and the courage to leave. If you stayed up this long, maybe consider liking or subscribing, but only if you feel like it. No pressure, sugar. Now close your eyes, let the dust settle, let the past fade, and drift off, knowing you made it. Even in a town like Red Gap, even wearing someone else's name, you made it.